Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I wish that normies could just wake up. The conversation that's happening on Joe Rogan's podcast every single day, in my opinion, should be the global conversation. Joe's been on a tear lately, hitting many important issues, but this one in particular, this one's probably or arguably the most important. This is the conversation that needs to be had. This is the one that shuts down one of the most dishonest media narratives. The quote, big lie. It's not a lie. There may be elements that certain people spread that aren't true, sure, but from a macro view, there absolutely was election interference. And it's high time that people finally come to this realization that the media is totally ignoring it, and that some individuals in the media, who I've given credit in the past, but in some cases absolutely don't deserve it, like Bill Maher, know that it's true, they know that this is the case, yet they forgive it. These are the same people talking about democracy. I got a Joe Rogan clip and a Bill Maher clip to show you guys. Important topics to discuss. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, Joe Rogan has come to the realization of just how corrupt the election process is.
Was it 51 intelligence officials that signed off on the fact that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation?
Yes, I believe including four former heads of the CIA. And it's really something because there's no demand for accountability for those people.
Yeah.
Hey, explain yourself. How did you sign off on this? Blatant election interference. They really did. I mean, they suppressed the October bombshell that would have very likely tipped the election in Trump's favor.
Yeah.
And tried to make it seem again that Russia was, stealing our elections, which is another major factor in the whole Russia-Ukraine conflict. That, first of all, what an insane provocation of Russia it was for the last 6 years to have not just people in the corporate press, but the former head of the CIA, on TV every day saying Russia attacked our democracy. They interfered in our election and then also claiming that they were in a partnership with Donald Trump to steal it from Hillary Clinton. And I heard senators and congressmen and every media pundit, people from the FBI, the CIA, constantly saying on TV that this was an act of war by Russia. That they would say it's worse than Pearl Harbor, what they did. And so if you're from the Russian perspective, you're sitting there and you see the most war-hungry country in the world, the country that in the last 20 years has fought 7 wars, led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, destroyed nations, and they're out there saying, you just committed an act of war against us. I mean, that's quite an aggressive posture, particularly when they all knew it was bullshit. They all knew from the very beginning. And so you had all of that, and then they tried to do it again in 2020, claimed this was a Russian operation to interfere in the election. And meanwhile, all of it was actually a U.S. intelligence agency's operation to interfere in the election, just from the other side.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy that this is not a mainstream narrative and that the news ignores this. They also ignore during the debates when Joe Biden was saying that, my son didn't make any money over there and I have nothing to do with my son's business. It's all lies. It's all easily proven and there's nothing.
Yeah. And of course, if Trump, the moderator doesn't push back during that debate and say, excuse me, Mr. Biden, that's just not true.
Right.
We know there's no pushback on that. They just let him get away with it. And he gets to stand up there and say, hey, look, all of these intelligence officials, they tell them they're backing up my story, that this laptop is Russian disinformation. And I don't know exactly what it is now, but I remember there were they had opinion polls on this after the Mueller investigation. And it's still an enormously high percentage of Democratic voters believe that Trump and Russia were Trump and Putin were involved in a conspiracy to steal the election. They still believe it to this day because they heard Trump-Russia collusion every day nonstop. And that is a huge part of why they support this war in Ukraine, because they think we're fighting the country who overthrew our democracy and gave us Donald Trump for 4 years. It's all just complete bullshit. But they believe it.
I don't remember the number exactly. I think Joe Rogan's averaging, 11 million viewers per segment. I hope millions of people watch this and their eyes are opening, their minds are finally understanding the bigger picture here. The same people who claimed that there was interference in the 2016 election, the same people talking about democracy constantly, have been absolutely silent about CIA election interference on behalf of the DNC to protect Joe Biden. Free and fair, my democracy, they say. There's nothing fair about 4 former heads of the CIA signing on to a letter supposedly discrediting a totally credible 100% accurate story that would have been impactful in people's decision-making process heading to the ballot box. You know, it's like I always say, it's a breaking story. It's one of the biggest bombshells of the 21st century, for Pete's sakes. And nobody even mentions it. No one talks about it. The media pretends as if it doesn't exist. And you know, it couldn't be clearer what the intent is here, because when it was actually happening, when those former CIA officials and those 51 former intelligence individuals were signing on to the letter, when they penned the letter and when they signed it, it was all the rage. The media covered it non-stop.
Who even thought to make that story up?
It's a story that many intelligence experts say has all the hallmarks of a foreign interference campaign.
It looks like it's tied to Vladimir Putin in Moscow.
This is a Russian intelligence disinformation campaign.
It's foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Russian intelligence.
Rudy Giuliani was not fed passively Russian disinformation. He ordered it off the menu.
This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
All of the hallmarks of Russian disinformation for weeks on end throughout the month of October, they ran a mass media campaign to discredit the Hunter Biden laptop story using that exact letter signed by those 51 former intelligence individuals. And then the moment the letter was discredited, the moment it came to light that actually Anthony Blinken's office and another former CIA hack had actually drafted the letter and then requested signatures to, quote, protect Joe Biden on this issue, once they had the biggest update on the story that they had spent so much time, that they had devoted so much effort promoting, once it came to the correction, nothing but silence. If that doesn't show clear media corruption being in the pocket for the DNC, then I don't know what does. I don't know what ever will. And it's not even just the CIA, it's not just the FBI, it's the media complex as a whole. People often say, well, Fox News is that counterforce. Fox News is the Trump network. No, Fox News is in bed with all the other leftist news outlets. They're all one and the same. A little flashback to the 2020 Fox News debate, where Chris Wallace multiple times tried getting in the way of statements being made by Donald Trump accusing Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden of being involved in a criminal bribery scheme.
China with ate Mexico. Your lunch down 18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
None of that is true. Let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really?
Totally, Mr. President, Mr. President, please.
Totally discredited.
Fortune by coming down and helping us with government.
And that's such a
Mr. President.
Every single one of them lost.
This is not about my family or his family. It's about your family, the American people. He doesn't, that's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need, you, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about here.
All right, that's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Vice President, no.
Can I be honest? It's a very important
question. Try to be honest.
He stood up.
No, the answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you don't get rid of the
absolutely not true.
You're going to have
true.
You have these media talking heads who host and moderate these debates doing the same work as the CIA was doing. I don't know, seems fair to me, right? Wake up, people, wake up. People are criticizing Donald Trump from skipping the Fox News debate. Do you really blame him? I don't blame him at all. The entire media apparatus is constantly working to destroy him, to put their thumb on the scales of democracy. They say you're a nutcase, you're crazy, if you believe that there were any issues at all. But I don't know, it seems to me like I'd be crazy not to see the clear corruption staring me in the eyes right in front of me. Although for me, the craziest part is the total dishonesty. The way leftoids are willing to justify this kind of behavior as just part of the process. Here's the Bill Maher clip that I was mentioning in the earlier intro, where he was speaking with Vivek Ramaswamy, where he essentially acknowledges that big tech was in the DNC's pocket and says, well, hey, you know, whatever, it's just part of the process.
Well, I think that big tech interfered. You and I have talked about this like a year ago.
What does that matter?
Bill, and I'm
it
data-driven.
Doesn't matter.
It
Big
does
tech
matter,
is
though.
always, yes, it does matter.
Here's what matters.
But we can't. At the moment, it's happened.
I accept Biden's the duly elected president of the United States. I said it at the time, and I said it now.
Everybody does bad things during campaigns, including using big tech.
Just part of the process. I'm sure that's not a totally dishonest, biased stance, right? You know, these leftists are so funny. When corruption benefits them, hey, you know, it's just the way that it works. But when it swings the other way, not that it has, not that we have any, examples as of right now where Democrats are facing severe injustice, but could you imagine what they'd be saying if it was happening to them and their political candidates and political ambitions? Well, you don't really have to imagine it, because they did imagine it. In the 2016 election, they literally imagined Russian election interference, and it dominated the news cycle for 3 to 4 years straight. And they attempted to impeach Donald Trump and ran their entire 2018 platform on that exact issue. Shows two things. They're hypocrites, they're corrupt, they justify and defend political corruptness, and it further proves just how bought and paid for the mainstream media is. When there was a boogeyman of election interference in the 2016 election, it was wall-to-wall, morning to night news coverage every freaking day. Russia, 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 Russia. When it actually happened the other way, dead silence. Wake up. In a just and in a sane world, what's happening on the Joe Rogan podcast right now should be exactly what's happening in the public conversation. Wake up, people. It's literally right in front of you. You just gotta turn off MSNBC and CNN and pay attention to the facts. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.